Let's get it. America, I'm a little subdued. I'm a little calmed down right now because this is the show I've been waiting on my entire life. You got a small dose of it a couple of months back to almost like a year ago. You got a little taste of it, but it was a whole bunch of chefs in the kitchen at that time. Now, because normally I'll be real with you. First of all, folks, what's good, America? I'm C. Turner. That's Big Game James. Normally, when we have somebody on, we ask, like, hey, is there anything we can't talk about? Is there anything we need to stay away from? How do you want us to guide the conversation? This man said it's unfiltered, it's raw, like it's the playbook is open. It's like if you give the freshman quarterback the entire playbook the day he gets on campus, and I'm happy about that. All right. So you know who I am, the Prime Minister of Duval County, C. Turner, chocolate pudding himself, and my right-hand man on my left-hand side, my left-hand man on my right side, the Robin to this man's Batman. All right. Mr. Touchdown. Matter of fact, the reason why he is Mr. Touchdown is partially responsible because of this guy who's on the show. The co-MVP of the 2008 season, James Big Game Madison Walton the third. Let's go.
Okay, so first and foremost, I like the fact you just went ahead and you just wanted to just stoke it right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and calm it down. I'm already excited. Look, America, you can't even see. I changed all the names of everybody's based on what we have here because this is actually the truth of the way we see ourselves. And you know what? There's some truth in a lot of these names, and there might be a little bit of a stretch in the truth in maybe one name. I don't know. I can tell you it's not the guy that I'm going to introduce. And I mean, he doesn't need any introduction in this circle. To me, I am watching my wife walk around, and I told him this. And I actually told, there's a picture of me and him, this guy here, and one of my other very, very close guys, Dusty Burke. And those guys were the architects of my life being so happy for what it is. So I got a chance to tell him that at the wedding. But man, look, I've played with a lot of guys. Okay. I talk about Chuck on this show a lot, and we all love Chuck. There's nobody like this dude. I've never had an easier time playing football in my life. That's the easiest 2 years of playing football. Literally would just show up in the stadium and could look at this guy from 40 yards down the field after a play, and he would nod at me, and I would nod back, and then we would go back and score a touchdown. Like the things, the little things with this guy, and it was because of him. Phenomenal leader, great father. My favorite, listen, man, the greatest quarterback I've ever played with and I've ever seen in our version of our sport, man. We're glad to have you on, man, where it's not a whole lot of screwball being passed around in CT's basement. You know, the show is kind of taking its form. We appreciate you during our first live sessions helping it out. Chris Dixon, welcome, goddammit.
What's going on, America? They won.
Forever MVP. That's one of the factual names here. We'll let you decide between the other two.
Mm-hmm.
How
y'all doing, man? It's a great thing to be on with y'all tonight.
Man, I don't know where to start this because Turner's been so giddy since we got the email address. So I'm just like, hey, go ahead, Chris. I mean, like
I said, hey, I'm an open book, man. Look,
like Chris Turner just wants to take this a certain way, so I'm gonna let him lead.
I don't know. For years, I haven't said anything, and I know me and Chris will see me, and he'll ask me certain questions about certain things or anything, and I mean, Chris knows, you know, like if I say it, I mean it, and what I mean, I say. That's one thing I am. I'm not a person to hide from it. So, I mean, even as a football player, you know, like was on the field, you know what I'm saying? It was about getting the work done. And if you wasn't about getting the work done, I mean, I really didn't want you around me. So, I mean, so it's no different than now in my life. So whatever,
So
whatever y'all been getting
I'm gonna
at.
give you your flowers first. I'm gonna give you your flowers first because Walt did, so I'm gonna give it to you too.
Oh,
So
I got way more flowers to give. That was just the intro.
we can make this a praise session the entire time.
I mean,
I'm gonna give you your flowers.
The crazy part is it's factual. Like Chris, like it's not even a. First of all, there's nobody in here that needs to kiss anybody's ass.
No,
it's the fact of I mean, you've heard enough of it when we've talked about things. It's just a matter of how I mean, look, we've all played a lot of football. You've won a lot of championships, and for me, I'll never get over how easy 2009 was to be a professional and just come to work and know exactly what was going to happen, unless you go to Omaha on the road. Then for some reason you go to Omaha on the road in 2009. Nobody can play. And I'll take the blame for definitely the second Omaha game because that was me on third down. I dropped that one. My bad. I remember going like, ooh, that was not a good drop. That wasn't a good time to have like your first drop in about 10 weeks. That was a tough one. And
so I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna be
anyway, but go ahead, CT.
I come from a situation where like we're all from different parts of the country. I'm from Florida, Walt's from Chicago, Chris is from the Bay, from California. So I come from.
You said it right the first time.
So I come from a situation where it's like, okay, it's D1 or nothing. That's just what it comes down to. Like if you don't go D1, then like wherever you playing at, it don't matter. Mm-hmm. I will be the first. I will publicly admit this. When I played with this man, like it changed my whole perception on like the whole D1, D2, NAIA type deal because the show that this man put on for the 2 years we were together and the 4 years we played against each other, whatever, like it made me question because I'm gonna head down this road in a second, but like the numbers he was putting up, the things he was doing against Auburn cornerbacks, Clemson cornerbacks, Tulane defensive linemen, LSU defensive linemen, Rutgers linebackers, like it was ridiculous and putting cats to shame. And I think that because of that chip that was on the shoulder, like it made first of all, it made our practices way more competitive than they probably should have been. Because like our practices honestly were dangerously competitive. Like there was no, all right, we're just gonna brother-in-law, we're gonna take it easy, we just gonna get through it. Nah, you damn near about to fight every team period. Because I don't want to let him score because I don't want to hear his mouth. He don't want us to stop him because honestly, the defense had like 5 cats from Florida on it. So all we want to do is talk shit. He don't want to hear it. So like our team periods were ridiculous. Now I say all that to say this. You just had a record that was recently broken.
I knew he was going there. That's why I said what I said. I knew you were going there.
You had a pretty high record that was recently broken by quarterback Jamel Sewell, who has been arguably named.
Stop it. I got to stop you. You got the wrong quarterback name, buddy.
Which one was it?
This is Charles McCullum, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Charles McCullum.
Chuck
Manning. Heir apparent to you. Mm-hmm. I saw the Facebook post. Mm-hmm. I know Coach Chris Dixon. Mm-hmm. I also know Dixon. Mm-hmm. How do you really feel about that?
I'm not mad. I'm happy for him. I mean, anybody who can go out and do that, you got to respect. I mean, respect what he's done, okay, in terms of that record. Like, I mean, it's his name goes there. His name belongs there. He did it. I mean, you got to remember, man, our team is kind of like the old Green Bay Packers when it comes to the IFL. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember, it's 12 years now. You know what I'm saying? We won year 1, year 2, you know what I'm saying? I won year 1, 2, 3, 4, and year 6 championships. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, we kind of got that Packer feel, you know what I'm saying, with the old school Packers. So, I mean, in all honesty, I got to set the bar, you know what I'm saying? And if you really go back and look, what people don't do enough of is break down stats and how they happen. Okay. Go look in the years that man played. Go look in the games he played. Go look in the throws it took. Go look in the, you know what I'm saying? When you talk about breaking records, I mean, he deserved to break it because he broke it. So I mean, it's his. It's his. It's no different than it was his when he broke the single season touchdown record. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to be broke. I'm the one who set the bar. But many people forget, like, I got a chance to do that. I could say I was the first to set the bar for everybody. I'm the personally as a quarterback, I'm the tone setter. And if you really look at every offense as ran today in the IFL, every offense, you go pop my tape and you will see that that offensive coordinator went back to my tape and went and got the guy who looks or can do something or everything that I can do. Not one coach not has changed the game from when I was in Sioux Falls right now or when I was in Billings. Remember, before I went to Sioux Falls, everybody started copying what we did in Billings. What did? They went and got a big middle receiver like Walt. They went and got a really fast guy on the outside, and they really got a tall or really strong standstill guy. What team was that? Our 2009 team, when we had Walt, Red, and McCain. And then when you put that in perspective, when we got to Sioux Falls, everybody tried to copy that, what we did in Billings. So if you look at all the recruiting of all the players, go look at everybody roster, it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So you even looking at Arizona today. So let's look at Arizona, right? Arizona, they got a little fast dude in Harrington. Yep. They got the big, tall receiver, number 8, and they got a medium range receiver that comes off, and he does everything from short to medium. So put that in perspective. I'm the tone setter. Everything we've done, everything I've been a part of is now what the IFL does today. I mean, how many quarterbacks have ran for 30 touchdowns? 2. How many quarterbacks threw over 74 touchdowns in a season? 3. How many quarterbacks have won the MVP and a championship? 2 in 12 years.
Yeah, you and Drew. Drew's a beast, by the way.
See what I'm saying? So when people talk about, like, am I mad about records being broken? Put the young me now with a record to be had. What would I do? People forget 2012. If you put me having the same games as most of these IFL dudes today, because remember, when we played, it was 14 games.
Yeah.
They're playing 16. So if you put my playoffs games into the record books along like a regular season thing, well, I had, 90 at one point.
Well, hold on. Let's just call a spade, dude, because Walt even tested on this before. We'll get to the third quarter and y'all pretty much shut it down. So you got 14 games where out of 14 games, you're missing a quarter every game. That breaks down to be like 3 or 4 whole games themselves.
09's one of those weird years, Chris. Like,
well,
I think for you, I mean, I got to remember I got 2 Chris's. CT, it's a weird year for you because, like, what you had going, you guys were so good and so intense on that side. Like, it's now for you to kind of look back and go, was that really happening? And it was like, it was insane how crazy easy that was. And for me, to be a part of it, and I was really the only guy that was there from game 1 to game 17, 18 when we finished. Mm-hmm. And every night, even the games where, you know, Omaha was basically, and Sioux Falls the first week, those were really our best, toughest games the entire year. But even through all those games, the win or loss, the game always felt easy. All you had to do was do your job and execute. That was it. I'd never been in a situation like that before.
Well,
like my Bloomington years, like '07 felt that way because I was the young guy and I was benefiting from playing with two, one now legit AFL legend who was very much slept on. And that always becomes the biggest thing. It's like, oh man, and like Reggie Gray said, yeah, I love Reggie Gray to death. Go look at 2007. And Reggie's been out here. I love Reggie to death. That's my guy. And it's like, yeah, like you kind of look at certain guys and certain people, and they look at this game, and you kind of have to look at him, remind him. And I think that's why me and Chris always got along. Period. It was like a 1A, 1B thing, and just the way we thought the game. And we had a very similar chip. I loved how you mentioned the D2 thing, because Chris touted me the same way about that MVP. He was like, man, like he had to run down like all those guys from El Paso. I didn't know all them guys played. I knew them guys played D1, but he ran those schools down. I said, they played there?
Well, add on our championship game that year. You got to
remember the Rage. I always knew
the Rage got nothing but D1s.
Yeah, well, that was Kenny. I mean, Coach Stills is still one of my favorite coaches to go against all time, and I think he gets slept upon when it talks about, because they were good too. It wasn't like he was just getting like all them guys could play. We were just better at that style of football.
It's funny because if you put in a perspective of every quarterback left in the playoffs, right? All the quarterbacks left in the playoffs. You got Ben Sankey and Duke City's quarterback.
Yep.
Nate Davis. Just like Ben Sankey. I mean,
that's
dead on. Everything he does is just like Ben. Just like him. If you pop the tape, you'll see Ben and Davis. You'll see Big Strand a little bit in that quarterback from Massachusetts. He's not a mover, but he getting rid of the ball and he understands where his receiver's going every time.
Sankey is high praise. Now you got me wanting to see. Don't get me
No. Nate Davis.
I love to watch tape.
Now, but Nate Davis belongs in that conversation. I'm telling you, he got the same look, same release. He plays the game the same way. You know what I mean? And who else is left? Frisco's quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He got that Malik got that little bit of that James McNair in him. He long, lanky, can move. He gonna get rid of it, but he got that different feel. You know what I'm saying? That lankiness that like it messes you up because you don't know how he's gonna come at you. And then I think Drew Powell kind of has that Terrence Bryant. I mean, he's more of a runner than Terrence, but he's definitely left-handed, and everything about his demeanor is just like Terrence. Everything. I'm talking about the way he throws the ball, the way he, the things he take. He takes a few deep balls, but he gonna take the check down and he gonna not turn it over, but he definitely gonna punish you in the run game. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, when you look at today's IFL, it's really going back to the days, of 09, where these quarterbacks are looking like the same guys you used to see in the semifinals all the time. I mean, if you pop the tape, you get the same thing. I mean, what does Arizona got? They got a quarterback left-handed. They got a great screen game. They remind me of the 07. Honestly, they remind me of the 07 kind of Storm, except they got a runner at quarterback. Terrence wasn't really a runner like that after a while, where now that's what they got. They got basically Terrence Bryant at quarterback with great athletes around him, so.
I want to kind of go back and forth between, like, obviously the statesman we have now and the guy, and, I think a lot of it of your makeup too, and especially being out here. It's been for me because, knowing you all the years I've known, knowing Ike Greer, being from San Francisco, kind of being and living in y'all's area, being over here in the South Bay, obviously, man. But I think a two-ended question, because I know it's one I wanted to ask you when we were trying to get you on a little bit earlier, but just one, the impact of the Bay on your sports career, and two, like the impact of the Bay in sports, like the things that we've seen in particular. And I think when I really wanted to have you on was obviously watching Dame do what he did in the playoffs, even though we've all known about Dame, a lot of us, and obviously playing against Houston, we've known that connection. But just a little bit about you, and we don't have to go like Coach Carter crazy.
My era,
but the Bay growing up for you, and just the Bay now with Dame leading the way.
I think the best version of the Bay to explain my era is what they call Oakland Beirut. And if you ever hear about Oakland Beirut, it's baseball. So it's one of the most competitive things you did first. Football was cool, basketball was cool, but Oakland Beirut baseball was where you started. And you started young, you started 6, 7, 8 years old. And that taught you the competitiveness because the dads and the OGs and the gangsters who come back and coach and give back, it was serious. You know what I'm saying? It was serious before youth football. Like, and in all honesty, you had some of the greats. And I mean, some of the ghosts that come out of Oakland Beirut, you're talking about like Ricky Henderson, you're talking about Jimmy Rollins. I mean, you're talking about guys who have done major things in their MLB career. So a lot of our competitiveness started right there. And then you take it to, football where, it turns up in a different way because you're all split up. If we had an all Oakland team, like really from Oakland, everybody stayed in Oakland instead of going to San Leandro or we all just played for the Dynamites, you're talking about one of the most dynamic teams you could ever see at a youth level. But the problem is just like probably where y'all from, especially you, Chris, you probably got 3 or 4 teams in the same city that's breaking up probably a national champion every age group, but if they all stuck together and really built the squad, that's national championship competitive teams every year. So the one thing the Bay teaches you is how to compete and gritty and grind and how to work for everything you get. Dame said it best one time. He said, man, the thing I learned was, to never fold, no matter what team I'm given, no matter what I'm given, I'm never going to fold. Because, the one thing we're going to do out the Bay is we're going to outwork you no matter what. And y'all been in practice with me every day. I show up to practice. It's a work day. I enjoy what I do. I enjoyed being there. It was never a day I showed up for practice and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Nah, it's time to compete. I want to be better, and I wasn't just competing against y'all in practice. You know what I'm saying? I always felt like another dude was going to come get me, come get my job, come get my spot. So I had to keep that mentality. And when I was younger, when I first got in the league, I was chasing. I'll find anything to motivate me. Y'all know how I am. I'm a motivative person. If you say somebody better, then let's go out and prove it. You say he the best, I'm gonna show you I'm the best. If you feel like somebody better than me, then well, they better show me they better than me. And that's anybody. Like that's in almost anything I did. Cause that's who I am. I'm never a person who gonna sit over here and just back down. I've never been that way. So that's what the Bay teaches you, man. Never back down. You gotta remember, I come from where the Panthers started.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I'm not laughing, America. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing through this because he's right about that. I had to interrupt him because I won't mention his name on the show, but I want to talk about, like, there's going to be a lot of favorite Chris Dixon moments or do this, but I want to bring one up like right now because hearing him say that and being in practice, Turner, I won't bring up the guy's name because I just love him too much. And we love him, great guy. Do you remember the practice where, and this is what I would also like to say, like when Turner was talking about, watching you jog back and forth, like everybody would probably think that was me on my team. I loved having Chris Dixon as a quarterback because Chris Dixon said everything for everybody. We never had to say shit. All we had to do was go score and go have fun. And Chris would let that entire bench know. Which was great. I was like, oh, the face of the team does that? I can go be the entertaining face. I'm gonna let Chris do all the dirty work. Chris did all the nasty work for us. Like, y'all ain't shit. Peace. But I want to bring this up because this is a true story. And Turner was there. And this is like I said, I got 1,000 million set of flowers. Do you remember the practice? This is how competitive Chris Dixon is. Chris Dixon, America, was talking trash. This is in the 2009 season. It was 09. Matter of fact, we were practicing at Rimrock. And it was like middle of season. This is when we were starting our run.
Yeah.
And Chris, like he said, this is an ode to we have proof of this shit. Thanks to Chris, I wasn't drinking nearly as much during anyway, that's a true story too. But I remember we were in practice and Chris was going back and forth with a DB, our teammate. And Chris said, I will route you right now. Forget throwing these touchdowns on you. I will come in high motion on you right now, run this route, and make you look bad. And America, when I tell you this is not made up, he ran this route on him in one-on-ones, didn't even look the ball in, looked back at him. He actually turned him around and had him cut. Chris got a DB cut running a route. That's for real a top 10 Chris Dixon Billings moment that nobody would know. You remember that? I'm gonna leave his name out because that's my guy. Like I'm cool. Like we're all cool with him. But do you remember the time you got somebody cut running an option?
I don't even know what sparked that. I think it was something he said in practice. And,
oh yeah, I was there.
And actually, I think he had a pick in practice that day, or something. And he was just talking, and I was
had a pick. Like, he got a pick on you.
I was like, I'm trying to get a defensive look, and he had a pick. And I wasn't trying to be me. Coach O was like, don't be you, be, what I mean, you try to be somebody else. Because remember, our backup quarterback was hurt. And I'm like, all right, I'll just try to just throw to the spot. And he was just talking and and then after practice, I was like, man, look, man, I was just trying to, and then I don't know what he said, but it was just during practice. Like, I'll route you myself. Like
that's a bailout. This happened during practice.
Yeah, you're not that good. I'll route you myself. And he didn't believe me. Like I think he thought I didn't understand the game enough, or like I was just like not an athlete or something. And then when I did it, when I hit him with the post that came back to the corner, he was done. I mean, I don't know.
We used to call ourselves, especially that year, 09. Chris remembers this because that's what we used to always, that was one of our sayings. We used to call ourselves the Pink Slip Crew because our job was at Chris was our head guy. Chris was Maverick, right? And we were all Goose and all these guys, it was for real Top Gun. And all we was trying to do was collect pink slips. It was like, we'll come in here and whatever team we played, it was a good chance we were going to play them again. We expect to see one or two different DBs because we just beat the shit out of you. Like that was the type of mode it was. And the best part is that Chris knew he had guys that felt the same way. It was like, who's getting pink slips today?
Oh, I gave the best one. Whenever a new DB came in, never forget, Gaddafi would always say, get him cut.
Shout out to Gaddafi.
Yeah, either he gonna get him. He said either he gonna get cut or he gonna be able to compete. Because Coach O always brought in a new DB.
Every week.
Felt like every week we had a new DB. So
he brought in receivers.
It was, and the one that earned the most respect out of all of that time was Javon Jackson. Fitz. Fitz earned his respect through. I mean, the dude went through it that day. I'll never forget it, man. He was doing good. Then he fell off for a sec. Then he started doing good. And I don't know. I just looked at him, bro, and I said, dude, something about that dude gonna be different. You know what I mean? And then he just started to get better over time. And I mean, I thought he became a great DB in the league eventually, but
Yeah.
even that year, he made some plays down the stretch that, you just couldn't coach. You know what I mean? I mean, he was awkward at first. I mean, he wasn't really a great DB. I thought he played receiver all his life. And then you could see him transforming into a DB during that season. But I mean, you gotta remember, man, it was a time where we just got tired of all the change. So it just became, let's get these dudes out of here. Like, because it'd be some sorry people that came in, like real sorry. And they be getting hyped up and they'll be hyping them up. And then next thing you know, nah, man, get out, get out, go home. Like you ain't gonna help. But the reason why we was like that, because it was championship or bust for us. I don't think we ever said, oh, we'll be satisfied if we just went to the playoffs, or we'll be satisfied. It was championship or bust for us. I don't think I ever.
That's not what was discussed during my trade.
But
my trade was, you better be everything that you've been down there, and you're going to get better up here. If you do that, I was like, well, okay, first and foremost.
Right. But it's the thing is
given, because I was 25 and I was some vitriol in me, America. I was young. No, I'm just saying, no, you're right, Chris. Like that was that year. And you know what's crazy? I even think about that. You would know, like, these are the things I love having Chris on. We weren't even picked. That's the crazy thing. It wasn't like anybody was like, Billings is going to win this hands down.
No, not at all.
It was like Billings is going to do it. They were like, yeah, hold on.
It was Sioux Falls, Wichita. I never forget the first rankings because it always sat in my mind. Sioux Falls, Wichita, Omaha, Bloomington, us. What was that? Who we played in the championship that year?
River City.
River City. And that's how it went. And then so forth and everybody else. But
I'm glad he brought that up. So because let's let you know how dumb. This is why Chris Turner and I have a show, America. Because as much as we do love, and we are technically a part of the media, even though we don't really have official credentials because we're doing this shit for free. Except we do get some dope ass coffee.
Very true.
And we can get a dope ass workout. So shout out.
Fitness, baby.
Shout out Rebel Coffee, 9 Round Fitness. But understand that. Like, now, I knew Chris knew that stat. That's why I asked him, because I never knew that. All I was like, Lord Jesus, I'm going to Billings. Like, this is actually happening. I was like, in my head, I was like, this is my nightmare. But they got me to come up there and almost lose my job before I got there. That's a funny story. Anyway, but the fact that the MVP of the league and the runner-up to the MVP of the league are teaming together, and we were picked 6th at the beginning of the season. That lets you know how dumb the media is. Like, that's just dumb.
You gotta remember, I couldn't pass. So you didn't make sense with me.
Oh, really? Those 63 touchdowns that year happened by accident.
Yeah, but
the 63 and 7. Was that your first 60 and 7 season? Started like in 08, and then you ran that all the way to the rest of your career.
My O line wasn't that good. Our D line wasn't that good going into that season. Though, remember, and we really couldn't beat Sioux Falls. That's what always was said. So, because 2 years in a row, we lost in the semifinals. So everybody was like, now that these new teams in the league, Billings won't be there. But what the thing they didn't know is we were so young in 08. I mean, you got to think that's a first year Gaddafi, a first year Tough. We was trying to find ourselves. Y'all know how our team was. Let's be honest. We was probably one of the most hoodest teams you could ever have in the league as well. So, thanks. Our biggest problem ever was always discipline. It never was we talented enough to win? It was the discipline at the time we needed it the most to win. So, in 09, when when he revamped the whole squad, he brought different tension. I think from '08 to '09, it was only me, me,
Bays, Gaddafi,
Gaddafi,
Chuck,
Chuck,
Nolan,
Tim,
Nolan,
Nolan,
Bonner.
Bonner.
Hey, that was it.
That was it from our '09, for our '08 team. So what he
And
did
Willie Austin.
was Willie with us? Yeah, Willie was with us in
Yeah,
'08. So yeah.
Willie was with us in yeah, he was with
So
y'all.
he revamped. Oh, Bazemore and Baze.
All right,
Came,
Baconator. Sorry,
yeah,
first team all league Mike Bazemore, by the way, 2000.
He came
Because he got hurt in '07. That's what happened. He tore his knee in '07.
Right. So he brought back, I mean, we had to build off that. And then what he brought in was Chris Landry,
Kelly.
Was it Kelly Rouse? Yep. And then he brought in and then that's when we got the trade for you. Then they end up giving us Red, and then we got McCain in the fourth game of the season. So it was like
Simoniah,
and then we had who?
Simoniah, Muhammad Shamsuddin.
Yeah.
Traded for Yatari. The Yatari trade was huge that year.
So you now I got a beast of an O-line. I got a run game out this world with 2 running backs. I got all three receivers. And now you're talking about, okay, I got basically a loaded gear. Like, so I already had the year I had the year before with 3 good receivers, but now, you know, he started to transition it the right way into being my team that year. And so and then he brought all the young guys on defense, which made it more like Mike Bazemore and Gaddafi's team.
And shout out EB to DB as well too, Mike Eby.
Yep, but I'm saying, but then Eby, then he brought in Eby with that. So you had real leadership along with young guys, and that's what really changed is the leadership part of it all, and we all can connect on game day because we all had one common goal and we all wanted to prove something, and so that changed everything. You know what I'm saying? So when he let that and just said, you know what, I'm gonna let my players have more say, and that's what happened. I mean, think about it. Practice, we competed against each other because we pushed each other.
The entire practice.
I mean, it was no, slouch days. It was no do what you want. Like I remember Gaddafi saying this to a DB one day, bro, you take a day off over here, man, you're gonna be cut the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like D-line, I mean, y'all one-on-ones with offensive linemen was crazy. I mean, y'all got better every week. It was no questions asked because y'all was pushing each other. You know, I remember the fight between, who was it? Yatari.
Yatari was fighting.
No, I can't remember.
I'm so glad I got to play with him for a season.
Yatari and somebody had a fight in practice. I just never forget, man. And it was just competitive. And so, you know, I remember I used to go and when Tough was there, and Tough used to push me, boy. Tough knew how to push every button to get me going, though. And so I'll be like, you know what, man? I'm gonna score on y'all in 5 plays. And boy, was y'all pissed off every day. Because I throw the last touchdown and I'm going home.
Like it's like you would throw receivers open, like when they clearly covered, or like we'll get back there half a second too late and it'll still be a touchdown. But let me switch gears on you real quick. One of the 2 popular stories that's going on right now, and 2 of them, like both the stories kind of involve me. This IMG team. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, IMG is a charter school. Like they take some of the best cats out of the country, bring them down to Orlando, and essentially it's your freshman year in college before you even get to college because they got the best of everything. Mm-hmm. They went against the Bishop Sycamore School, which they told ESPN, which mind you, a bunch of people at ESPN probably need to lose their job. But they told ESPN, hey, we got all these D1 guys and we ready to compete and like we want IMG. Now, IMG is not a school that backs down from anybody. Like if you want to play IMG, they'll play you at your home on your homecoming in front of your mama because they want to embarrass you. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that matchup? Like what? Granted, I know what went wrong, but like as a football player, as a coach, more than anything else, you bring in your Montana Outlaws team, and y'all are undefeated, highly touted, got all these guys here, there, and everywhere that are going to Clemson, Florida State, Alabama, and everything. Because if you look at that IMG team, one of their defensive linemen is going to Alabama. Mm-hmm. One of their linebackers is going to Penn State. Two of the DBs, and these are just the seniors, are going to Virginia Tech, and then the other guy's going to Miami. And that's just the seniors. Like the juniors are ranked in the top 10. The sophomores are ranked. You bring this highly touted team to essentially play this team that doesn't have matching face masks, matching jerseys, matching anything, but it's like your team is going to fight a lie. Like as a coach, what do you tell your team, and like how do you feel about this after you've decimated this team 60-0 in pretty much in 3 quarters?
If I'm the coach of IMG, is what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm the coach of IMG, we business as usual. It proves the point of who we are. And I think it proves that, you know, when you come and want to call out IMG, whether you have grown men, as they said, or kids, whatever you got, it's proven that IMG just, it's kind of like having, you know, a freak of nature. I mean, that team just is well put together. I mean, the IMG credit, I mean, they go get the best of the best. You know, yeah. I mean, in my son's class, that 2026 class, they after about 3 quarterbacks in that class right now. You know what I'm saying? And so if I'm IMG coach, it's business as usual, way to handle business, whether it's a scam or whatever, it ain't our fault. We did what we were supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, like, the IMGs, the modern days, this Boscos.
Yeah.
I mean, there should be 2 different, I think, agree. Different national levels. There's a private national level, and then there's a public national level. And the public national level is those schools who just, you got to go to that school because that's your area.
You get what you get.
Right. Like De La Salle should be in the IMG type of realm because anybody can go to De La Salle. You know what I'm saying? It's hard, but like Miami Central trying to play, what was it, Miami Central in modern day? Was that who played? Come on now. Yep. Like, that wasn't even a matchup. Like, come on. You go get kind of like the best kids in Southern California playing against basically some of Miami. Not all, but some of Miami.
So,
and that's not a matchup.
To interject on this, because obviously the state of Illinois is never going to be in these conversations. Well, this is a pure California, Florida talk. But I want to say this because it does parallel to something here too that you guys have both been talking about. That's basically what the hell's going on with the NCAA right now, football-wise. Mm-hmm. You guys have basically outlined it, and you know what's crazy is that it can and probably will happen the way you guys are saying it. And in my question to you guys both now, as we've kind of piggied into this, and then we'll get back to the real MVP, because I got some other questions. I know CT's just got them stashed, but do you think that actually hurts putting them at 2 levels? Because I'll give my opinion first. I'm asking it. Like, I hear what you guys are saying. Like, of course, IMG is a different animal. There's not too much like that. And obviously, Matter Day winning, what was it, 156 games in a row?
No, it was De La Salle.
156. Mm-hmm. Matter Day, probably on another crazy win streak. You know, Allen, Texas, like Allen High School's like that. Kyler Murray's high school, because I've seen Allen High School and I've seen their stadium.
Me too.
Like, that's crazy. You know, like you've got these, you know, these certain places, you know. But I think that that's actually a hindrance to kids. And I think that's part of what me and Chris Turner talk about on this show, And I think that's the curse of this generation. You know what? I believe that at the end of the day, that's an excuse. You know what? If they're given those things, great. Okay, like I played in a conference in Illinois where we were a 5A, it was a six, that's back when it was a six-class team. Every school in our conference was bigger than us by 1,000 kids. Minimum. Our true rivals were bigger than us by 3,000 kids. We went 7-2 my senior year after going 2-7 the year before. Why? Because we competed, we worked hard, we worked together. We believed that we were the best team in the state. Got to the quarterfinals. That paid off for us. We played all these 6A schools. So by the time we got to play who we played, it was a matter of just, we're better than you. We beat Cahokia, who had 5 or 6 D1 guys. I think the same effect is good for kids. It's good to understand how bad do you want something. Are the cards stacked against you? Yes. You know what that's called? LIFE. You know, unless you're a Rockefeller or a Carnegie or something like that, then you're good, right? Like, you know, you're born into it. Yeah, life is a different life. But 99% of us, you got to go through some shit. So that's my opinion of how, like, I think you guys are on a competitive level. I see it, and you're both right. But I don't think you should do that. I think if IMG is undefeated and they're playing for the Florida title, I think you got to go through IMG and you. Sorry for that.
I'm not saying they shouldn't play, but what I am saying is, like, you got to understand, like, when you put a game on national TV, I don't want to see a IMG in a Miami Central game.
No.
I think it's unfair. I mean, like, I don't want to see it on TV. I'm not saying they shouldn't play, but if I'm going to see something on TV, I should see an IMG in a modern day, a Miami Central.
I didn't have the context.
Miami Central and a Long Beach Poly is what I should see on TV. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who, like, when you talk about IMG, okay, IMG is a power. Well, we always say IMG is a power. Well, is modern day a power? Why we don't see them play each other? Like, to me, that's a shame. Why am I not seeing
all the time? They settle it in basketball. They do
exactly. But why am I not seeing a St. John Bosco in the school out of Maryland? Or why am I not seeing a, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you talk about like a De La Salle versus a IMG, why am I not seeing those things? I'm just saying, when they putting these schools on TV, like, shout out to the public schools that get that opportunity to play those schools. But then when they lose to them, when a Miami Central loses to a modern day, they start looking at them like, well, they wasn't that good. Bro, it ain't even about them not being that good. It's just they don't get the access to the players. Like, you got to think, you got part of Miami going to Miami Central, and you got a full Southern California going to modern day. That is a big difference between all of LA almost and part of Miami. You know what I mean? Where if you go to IMG, you're going to get some of the best of Miami, some of the best of Texas. You're going to get some of the best of everywhere. And then let me see what you're going to do against modern day. I'm saying, when I'm looking at a TV game and we want to hype it up like the best in the nation, right, I think you need to see that game. But I agree with you, Walt. Like, shout out to Miami Central to get the opportunity to play modern day. And I think they really gave modern day what they could give them. But when it comes to, like, when you want to hype up a real D1 type of game that's really well recruited, it's no different than like basketball, right? Prep schools. I mean, none of those prep schools is fair to play any of the regular high schools.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Guess what, though? It'd be like the LeBron Jameses of the world who went to a regular, you know, private school in high school that got a chance to play against like 6 prep schools, and they were good enough to beat them. But that ain't gonna always happen. I mean, a lot of these prep schools is getting the best of the best around the country, putting them together and blowing people out until they get to what? Another prep school. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, you got to think IMG, a lot of them, not really going, I mean, they really get the focus on sports all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? Where we don't, the average, public school person got way more going on in life than sports. So I mean, there's a lot of factors in that, but I don't disagree. Like I love the fact that the best public schools get to play them, but I mean, it's unfair in a lot of ways of trying to say, well, Miami Central's not good now because they lost to Mater Dei. Let's be real. Like Mater Dei is a legit private school. You know what I mean? Like St. John Bosco is a legit private school. Like they're gonna get the best of the best going there. So I mean, that's how I feel about it. Like
So here's my thing with that. Like, I know it happened in our years and everything because like the conversation has always been who has like the best essentially prep school football, whether it's, and it's always been the same three names that pop up. Like the 4, 5, and 6 will always be different, but like 1, 2, and 3 is always going to be Florida, Texas, and California. So like I was a big fan of like the Florida California game, which I was blessed to be a part of, and the California team we played against was beyond loaded because they had Mercedes Lewis, Maurice Jones-Drew, and like just guy after guy after guy. And we had the Devin Hesters and all these guys, Devin Aroma should do. Like we had a bunch of guys too. Now, I'm good with it being like an all-star game and like you play us. But as far as like high school football goes, like I'm all for with having, all right, these prep schools, these private schools, y'all have y'all national champion. And then these public schools, which let's be 1,000% honest, there's recruiting that goes on in public schools because you use your grandmama address, or in my case, you use your old address to go to the other school.
Hate the private schools in Chicago for that.
But I'm all for that. But I think there does need to be a separation in the rankings just to make it a little bit more accurate. I say all that to move on to this. Let's just get petty. Who was way overrated as an IFL quarterback?
How did you transition that fast? That was good.
Setting that up, and I had to.
Hey, Chris. He didn't give you time to go into that. He went
overrated in 12 years.
Overrated in your time. Now, me personally, I'm gonna say it was Dixie Wooten because I never saw it. I thought he was trash the entire time. But that's just me.
Dixie was.
Dixie led a team.
I never saw what y'all saw in Dixie. I never saw.
Dixie was the quarterback of the team we played until like the last 2 weeks, and then they went and paid Ben. They were like, "Hey Ben, come here," and then Ben Sankey showed.
Okay, I get where Chris coming from, but you said overrated.
Like who got way overhyped, who was supposed to be like running the league and everything else, and they supposed to be this, that, and the third.
Willie Copeland.
Overhyped, overrated.
Willie Copeland.
Time period.
Willie Copeland.
Ooh.
Willie Copeland.
Willie Copeland.
And he won the MVP one year, and I'm still mad about that too. But we're gonna go there later.
And I took offense to that.
Willie Copeland, and I'm gonna tell you why. So year in and year out, everybody was like, "Oh, Willie this, Willie that," you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. Every time I played him, I never seen it, but I mean, you'll see it sometimes on film. But it's like when it mattered, he just wasn't who everybody said he was to me. Like I would say, if you want to say overrated, I think if you talk about that MVP award, I would say that was the most overrated MVP award I ever seen. Like, and like you just go, how? You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I get it. He had one good year, but he had talent around him and around him and around. Like Coach O gave him talent. Green Bay gave him a lot of. You gotta remember, Jamil Sewell and Willie Copeland was on the same offense.
I played against Willie.
Willie was the quarterback, and Jamil Sewell was a wide receiver in Green Bay. And Willie just it never added up to me. And everybody would hype him up. And I mean, if you was to ask me any quarterback that I feel I had to look at and go overhyped, and I remember Charlie and Gerald used to always be like, "Oh man, Willie a baller," and he used to ball out for us at
Well, he was their guy. That's why. Like that was their guy.
right. He was what was it at what's that school in Georgia?
Valdosta.
Valdosta.
He
And they
went
used
to
to always,
Valdosta?
yeah, Willie
Yeah.
was Valdosta. So they used to
You know
always
he was a
hype him up.
Valdosta kid. Valdosta's, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, if I had to say overrated to me, I just don't think he ever added up to what everybody said he was. I mean, I would have to say that that's who it'd be. I mean, you just when it came down to being clutch and having a lot of talent around you and never doing nothing with it, I think that's who it would be for me.
Hey, since we're back on who I want to talk about, Chris Dixon. We brought up that, you know, obviously one of the all-time great records has been broken. And now, you know, it's on the clock for Drew, for however long Drew's going to play for Arizona, with Chuck's record, because Chuck's right up there with us. The fact that Chuck has played as long as he has, shout out to him. I know the Chris Dixon record that'll never get broken.
Which one?
Most games completing every single pass, perfect passer rate.
Nah, it'll take a lot of them to. I don't know.
You had 3, if I'm correct.
I had two. I had 2, and I had one of 19 or 20.
I remember the first one was the All-Star game. I had a great view of that.
No, okay, well, I had 3, yeah, but I mean, I've done okay. So,
are we not counting the All-Star game because that was an exhibition?
No. So All-Star game, I went 14 for 14.
Remember that one because I had a nice look at that.
I had a 20 for 20.
I was like, hey, Turner, you talk about like, man, I should be playing in this game to be more competitive. And Chris was dicing up the East All-Stars. I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm over here just in my jersey.
Hey, you know what's funny about that? I went 14. I went for 14 for 14 and didn't even get the MVP.
Who they end up giving it to?
Horton.
I forgot about him.
So I went 20 for 20 against Wyoming, 17 for 17 against somebody. I forgot who it was.
Yeah, you did them. I think you did them both in. I think you did them both in Sioux Falls, right?
Yep. And then I went 19 or 20 against somebody.
I remember that.
I've had some games.
Yeah, that record will never be broken. Chris, I saw that one because obviously the Sioux Falls ones I didn't see. But I was just watching this shit. Like, this is the best of the best at that time in the league. You know what I mean? Right. And oh, man, coach, listen, they were so mad. 07. The 07 All-Star game, the Billings All-Stars took that shit personal.
Oh, it was personal.
It was personal. They were
I had a concussion the year before. I got hit hard.
Not happy when they got to that All-Star game and they had just lost the Super Bowl. It was literally, you know who you guys were in 08 at that Sioux City All-Star game? You guys were the Lexington Horsemen. Because that's why our practices were so damn intense. It was like Coach Schmidt and them was trying to show out because we were trying to snag anybody that didn't want to play in Lexington after getting beat by them all year. You know, that was JT Haskins, one of the greatest. You know, you had Willie Mulder, who was super solid. Harry Lou, who ended up playing for Bloomington later. You know, they had all these. They were trying to impress all the Kentucky dudes because that Lexington team was special, man. They just couldn't. They just always never got the. Sioux Falls always had the ball last in Sioux Falls, and that's how they could never win because. God bless Terrence. He always found a way. Them 2 years, Terrence found a way, and they'd either get him with a field goal or it'd be a touchdown with 7 seconds in that building. And Chris, you've played in that building up, Turner. You know, in that building, if you don't take it out of their hands in that building,
they're not gonna give it to you.
You gotta take it the way we took it in 09. It's fun to have Chris Dixon to be on both sides of this conversation. You know, as a guy that defended the honor of that building and the guy that took the soul of that building. What an honor and a distinction. Because to hold a team to under 20 points in their home building, and we didn't. I don't think we scored 30 and we won by 10.
All right, so that's enough of the pleasantries. I'm here for the petty shit. All right.
For now, I got more petty shit.
No, we're going straight into the petty shit. So
that was pleasantries. Oh, my bad.
It's enough of the pleasantries. I got a two-part question for the MVP, for the GOAT himself. One, how do you feel about the current status of indoor football? Because I've been on record on saying, like, this is the softest, most pathetic shit I've seen in my fucking life. And the screwball is kicked in. So, like, I've watched, I want to say in the past 2 or 3 years, I've watched like 2 or 3 games. And it utterly makes me sick to my stomach. Like, and mind you, I'm only watching O-line, D-line play. Mm-hmm. I'm not watching the skill guys, because you can tell how a league is based off of the big guys. If you can trash big guys, then what's happening with the 707 guys really doesn't matter, because that's all it is 707 now. Mm-hmm. So me personally, the first part of this question, how do you feel about the current stature of the IFL, of indoor football?
I think it's going in the right direction in terms of a league and everything. I think they finally got it right with having well-established teams and well-established ownership, because I think that was one problem in the past, is that the ownerships wasn't continuous. So I got to give it all the credit in the world right there. I think it established itself really well now in terms of ownership to players and stuff like that. I would say the D-line play has kind of fell off a little bit. It's not what it used to be, because D-linemen used to dominate games. Like, it's not too many D-linemen you can name now in the league that you say, man, that's the most dominant player, because in our day, you used to have some D-linemen dominate games. Like, you had, Nate Floyd alone from Sioux Falls used to just take over.
For your time, Chris. But that
between our D-line, between you, Bays, and Mike Landry, and Rockman Crable, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you used to have some D-lines that you go, man, that D-line just gonna take over. And even as good as Arizona is, I don't feel like they D-line just take over games like they should. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I agree. Like, looking at it from your standpoint, the D-line play isn't consistent as it used to be in our day. Because I thought, you used to have to worry about the D-line way more. Like, I'm watching, when a quarterback running for 800 and some yards and almost 35, 40 touchdowns, you got to go, well, where's the D lineman at?
Exactly.
And even but I don't really think it's just the D line play. I think the linebacker play has really fallen off. I think we need to get back to finding those backers like the Tyler Knights and the Blackburns and the Kelly Rouses and those guys, Beavis, like those guys who used to just,
that long motherfucking Tonga.
Yes, Tonga. Those guys used to just dominate at backer. And I don't feel like I think a lot of these IFL rules today are kind of messing with the backer play.
Chris, let me throw one more out, because I gave him a shout out on his Facebook. You and mine, one of our all-time favorites, and Kelly's my guy. I love him. But before Kelly earned that, John Winchester.
And Winchester, yep.
Winchester. Chris, you never got to see him play. Like, I played against him and I played with him in his prime when he was in Evansville. There wasn't anything he couldn't do.
Wall to wall, bro. He was like Salter. Him and Salter was two of the best at wall to wall.
There was nothing he could do, and they both could run, and they could cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that little.
That's the thing. You don't have those backers anymore. Even what's the name from Colorado?
Brian Griffin, is that right? Is that
Thornton.
right?
Thornton.
Joe Thornton. Yeah, Joe Thornton. Yeah.
Joe Thornton used to be.
That's Coach Joe's guy. Yeah, he was a beast too. Yeah.
You don't have those backers anymore who who just take over games. I think the closest one is the dude from Arizona. He's probably the best one. When you think about middle linebackers that can just dominate a game, but even then, he's still a big time blitzer. You know what I'm saying? But you talk about linebackers. I mean, one of the best was in Iowa, and Jock. Jock used to murder. And ever since Jock left, I feel like you haven't really seen that middle linebacker. I mean, Sioux Falls got one. I mean, but he's playing strong safety and linebacker. But it's just you don't have those linebackers anymore. I think that's what we've lost is the linebacker in this game. And I think with all these rules changes, it's
And
kind
shout
of
out Mo Simpkins too. I want to
yeah.
make sure I shout out
But
Mo Simpkins.
it's just messing up the
I'm just giving
linebacker.
shout outs now.
We got to figure out the linebacker play and get back to the linebackers. You know what I mean? And giving the linebackers a chance to fly around because that's why the defense. I mean, even though the scores sometimes is not as great, but it's a lot of times just quarterbacks missing. It's not really the scores of really the defense, like you're saying, is the pass rush is just killing. It's just really, it's just not the linebacker play. So I wouldn't even say it's just the D line. I just think the linebacker play isn't the same as it was.
Okay.
I just think
also because we're doing shout outs and everything. Shout out to Pig Brown too. I feel like he gets missed.
Forgot about Pig.
I said him.
Pig, my bad, Cornelius.
You said Pig. Okay.
Cornelius,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Don't
Pig,
fuck me up when I'm calling you by
Pig, man.
Pig Brown was he was a problem too. Shout out Pig Brown, man.
Yeah, see, like him and Maurice Simpkins and all that, they never you had to deal with a lot. And now today's backers, you don't have to deal as much because like
Winston Taylor, who I played with,
Winston
Taylor, shout out.
Our backers covered.
Yeah.
Our backers was a problem because they knew how to cover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Gotta shout out all my backers. Winston, I love you too, man. I know you ain't watching the show, but shout out Winston Taylor, U of I's finest, man.
So let me switch it for a second. All right, so we went that route, and now what's the best way to say this? There's a new team coming to the Billings region that's donning the old name, donning the old colors. Rumor has it they're trying to bring back some of the old guys to help coach and everything else. And however true that may be, it is what it is. What do they need to do, this new generation of the Billings Outlaws? What do they need to do to be successful? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. You struck out already by not having the balls to go after O'Neal the way you should have. You struck out already by not going after you the way they should have. You struck out already by not having.
I ain't gonna discredit them. They asked. They said that. They did. So I wouldn't discredit them with me. And it wasn't their fault. It's my own. I mean, I did not want to be a part, and I'll explain that later, but go ahead.
And you got other stuff going on. Like, dude, you have other stuff going on. But they dropped the ball by not having the co-host himself who was willing to have the conversation go in the way they should have. And like with Billings is a really big town where you have to win right now, or you have to be entertaining right now. And the fact that you let Salina pretty much just say, hey, we know y'all coming, you're not getting O'Neal. That's not happening. So what does this team have to do, which seems to be behind the 8 ball already? Because if you look back at it, the fans that are going to be fans now were the kids when we were playing. They're the parents now when we were playing. So what does this team need to do to be successful in this town that honestly, this town craves football? Like, baseball is big here, basketball is growing, football is doing okay, but like it's not the main life source of the kids here. So what does this new generation, this reincarnation of the Billings Outlaws have to do to be successful?
Whoever the new head coach is has to bring a quarterback in that is willing to be there. They need leadership of somebody willing to be there. I mean, the real route that has to be taken is they have to feel like this person really cares about the city in itself. I mean, we were successful even after things that happened because we had players who cared about the city. And even today, those players are still impacting the city. And so this new generation of outlaws have to learn that it's not just about going there just to go. You got to want to be impactful on and off the field. I mean, win or lose, you'll start winning when you start impacting the city, period. And I think the one thing that never impacted the city before, I mean, we never had players who impacted the city, like when we brought the Wolves in or things like that. And we kept trying to get them to impact the city. But I mean, you were one of few, y'all two was two of the few that played on that Wolves team that still impacted the city. But they need a quarterback who's going to impact the city, who's going to, you know, do things there that brings the crowd and keeps everybody attention, whether win or lose. You know, that he can win. I mean, he don't have to be so much me, but he's got to go in, and whoever the coach is got to bring players in who can impact the city first. Period. I mean, you know, we'll take our kids to the games. You know, when I fly up, I'll take my kids to the games, but they have to give kids somebody to look at and somebody to want to be like. And, you know, I think that's what is going to have to be done first is that most impactful player has to come in and make an impact right away.
I want to echo that, Chris, and in my way with that. I mean, he hits it on the head. It starts there. I mean, his head is snake, man. Like it is. And I know that because of the guys that I caught balls from. Like I know what Dusty Burke meant to Central Illinois, period. And when Dusty had to step more to his high school, when he was high school head coach, you know, he had to step into that, starting a family. He looked at me and he said, "You got this. Like, you're here. You do it a different way," which I did. I did it a completely different way, but it's the things that, you know, I know Chris did, and it's the things that we did. You know, we did things unsolicited, you know, and that's the responsibility of that team. I remember being in Bloomington and, you know, doing James things that I would do in 07, 08 is that I would meet people out in the streets because that's just who I was. I'm out to 2, 3 in the morning. That's just who I was at that time. Like I just was really into that. Yeah, I was getting college. Like Bloomington was like college for me. I got to have a senior year for like 2 years that I never got in high school. I never got in college. That's literally what it was. Because when Chris showed up in 07 for the All-Star, he said, this dude is okay. This is all right. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Some of these stories are just not going to make the light of day. But the point is, when Chris says that, it's the truth because there's things like I see pictures of us flash up even on Facebook, but it wasn't like that was going into the Gazette. We went and did it. Some of it was required by your contract and by our coach and by our organization. And 2, you did it because you saw your guys doing it. The only reason this show even exists is because you used to see me take my drunk ass on Thursday night and go up to the radio station. You know why? Because Chris couldn't do it every Friday. Chris had other things he had to do. So who are they going to send? We'll go send the dancer up there. That seems like his element. They were like, James, make sure your ass walks over to that radio station, says some funny stuff, don't go too far, sell the game, come back. and then Chris kind of 86 some of that stuff after, trying to think what game was that? Was that after Colorado? I did not play very well. And you were like, hey, dude, come here. Me and Chris, we had to listen. One of my favorite talks with CD. He goes, hey, man, listen, I really don't care what you do. Like, I don't, because you know I love you. But just give me 48 hours and then take that bitch back home. That's all he said to me. And I was like, I love you, Brian.
So I'll give you that story real quick. It was at my house. I had to make sure the boys eat every Thursday. I always did. Two things people didn't know about me. One, first day of camp, I always brought O lineman food. Facts. I always went to Denny's or IHOP. First day of camp, bought the O lineman food. Always. Secondly, I fed the offense on Thursday night. Everybody on offense got fed on Thursday night at my house.
Yep, we used to go over there.
So before one game, we used to watch a little film, and I used to talk about it like, Saturday, bro. Just know that this is what I'm looking at when we first did it, all that type of stuff.
It was definitely Omaha, Chris. I remember that. It was the Omaha game.
Right, but it was Sioux City when he dropped a lot of balls, and I used to go, "Boy, I don't care what you do. Do what you do. Just make sure you do it on Wednesday night. Give yourself Thursday and Friday water, and I don't care what you do Saturday night after the game. Like, just
the calmest conversation. He was like,
just give me 2 nights a week." And a matter of fact, I told him the first night, and I did it the first time. I said, "Look, if you give me Thursday, Friday, I buy all your drinks on Saturday. I buy them all myself." You know what I'm saying? So, and it wasn't, and I didn't do it because I just wanted to be a jerk, but I knew what he meant. You know what I'm saying? And I knew if I got 2 good nights out of him doing the right thing, we gonna win. But after a while, I didn't have to complain about it no more because he started to see his numbers fly up, and he was like, "Wait a minute, hold on. All right, 2 nights a week you can have." Now he got now he holds the IFL record in touchdowns, and there's never going to be a question about. Well, I don't know why they question it. Who's the best wide receiver to play? Because I mean, the man touchdown record tells it all. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that people don't know. It's just I never was a guy who never said I did it alone. I was always just the guy that tried to get the best out of everybody around me. And the best out of everybody around me is just taking a back seat and looking at what everybody did and then kind of had a conversation with them about it. Hey, James Terry, best example. James Terry would never warm up in Sioux Falls before I got there. Remember that. James Terry would sit in the stands. He would do what he do. When I got to Sioux Falls, I got James Terry to warm up 7 times. James Terry had 24 touchdowns. He never had 20 before that. You know what I'm saying? And it was about timing for me. You know how warm-ups was for me. It was just about timing. Everybody just talking, getting on the same page. But he gave me 7 weeks of it. And you know, the funny thing is, my last game of Sioux Falls, he warmed up. And we was in a championship game against Nebraska. And I remember, man, the man scored 7 touchdowns. Like, biggest game of his life. And that was our last game in that building. But my point to it all is, the one thing about me was I always found other ways just to motivate my teammates in different ways. Because it was never really about, you know what I'm saying? I knew that I couldn't succeed without you doing what you needed to do or anybody else. I mean, that's why 2010, I was so mad when we was playing so bad the first 3 games of the season. It was like, it was so selfish. Everybody was about themselves, and it was just like horrible. Like I was getting so mad about that. You know what I'm saying? So then it was like,
hey, except for your boy was trying to give it back.
I was fighting. I mean, I was fighting like I was fighting my teammates.
CD, I remember. CD, remember before we played Tri-Cities? I remember you were like, "Hey, Walt, you going to Z?" I said, "But why?" You were like, "Because I need you to be selfish." I was like, "I don't know if this is gonna work, Chris. I got used to this." I think it might have been like by Thursday, and Nolan making fun of me all week for playing so bad. Colorado was just my kryptonite. I don't even know why I went. I know why I went and played there.
I hate that.
I never played well in that building.
It's 2 buildings.
I Remember Kanye came out of, I miss the old Kanye. You hate the new Kanye? I remember Chris going, I need the old Wayne. I remember Chris going, he's like, dude, I get what you're trying to do. He was like, anybody here needs to be a little bit more selfish for a couple of weeks. I'm going to do it. So I love him for that. I love him for that because that snapped me out of it because I was there, you know what I mean? Like I was in the mode of like, when we won, I want to help build this thing. Like Chris and O have done so much. Like I'm looking to pass a torch. Like I was ready to be out of the game. Like it was time. Like, but
it would have worked perfectly. A healthy Alan Burrell and a less selfish Lamaz Cashman.
Yeah.
If those two would have happened, if Burrell would have been healthy and Cash would have been willing to just say, you know what, I'm gonna play within the system, that receiving core would have killed. But the problem was Cash wanted to be the man so bad, and AB was running on. I mean, he should have took the year off and got his legs back before he came back. I mean, if those two things was like normal, we would have been fine. But it was the selfishness of everybody. And I mean, look at it. We get those two leave, and we end up with Carl Sims and Spider. Come on now.
Carl Sims.
Bloom, Carl Sims, and we lose two all IFL receivers for those two. And bam. And it worked so well with the next two, with Bloom and Sims. They just did what you told them to do, and they wasn't selfish. So everybody put up numbers.
So can we? I mean, it's not even that it's a big thing. It's the three of us. You know, I would like that to be known right now about James Walton, Mr. Saturday Night.
That he wasn't 100% selfish.
That I was never a selfish player.
Ever. I wouldn't say timeout. I wouldn't say
ever.
Only
when it came time to that Tri-Cities game, and I looked at you, and it was the playoff. I said, "It's time to go to the money. We need to get the hell out of this round. They trying to get us." And you were like, "Yeah, it's time. Let's go ahead and do this and let's get on to the next round."
I would say James Walton was. I would say he was selfish before he came to Billings.
Oh yeah, 08. Oh yeah, 08, 100%. That is a fact. Shit was about.
I would say he was humbled when we played Sioux City in Billings and realized that, you know, he had to slow down and give himself a chance to be who he wanted to be. I think he was trying to force himself into everything instead of just allowing the game to come to him within a system that he was going to eat no matter what. I remember, this is one thing I remember. Before Walt realized that what the system was, it was like, I didn't want to play in the middle. I'm like, Walt, I want you in the middle, because Walt always played outside in Bloomington.
Right.
We moved him to the middle, and he was like, I don't like playing in the middle. I'm like, I need you in the middle. And it was the reason why I wanted him in the middle, because A, he's tall, B, he's athletic. And so he didn't really feel comfortable in the middle. But once he got comfortable in the middle and realized that all the little things that I can do in the middle, I'm gonna get more balls for touchdowns than I am. I mean, Walt wanted 100 balls a game if I'd have tried. But the thing is, though, do you want to sacrifice?
Caught 95.
Yeah, but if you want to catch more balls, or do you want to catch more touchdowns is the question. Because the middle guy in our offense is going to catch the most touchdowns generally. I mean, put that in perspective. James Walton, Clinton Solomon, Robert Reed always caught the most touchdowns. Why? Because they were in the middle. The outside guy is going to have the most catches because he's going to get the most one-on-one matches. He's going to get the short routes. He's going to get everything like that. So when Walt realized that, hey, do I want touchdowns or do I want catches? That's when he changed from Big Game James to Mr. Saturday Night. Because now Mr. Saturday Night went from
still the worst nickname ever. I don't know why I did that shit. Y'all should have cut that tape up and like don't fucking do that.
He went from 100 catches 18 touchdowns to
28 touchdowns. You stop robbing me of my numbers, Chris Dixon.
20.
I never had less than 22 until I went back to Bloomington and went through that bullshit of getting my ass whooped by both you some bitches. I'm going to ad lib because this is my show. Let me tell you something about Chris Dixon.
He goes 74 catches for 36 touchdowns.
That was a great time.
I'm just saying.
I want to say this to my quarterback. He's right about that Sioux City game. It was very humbling, but I think it was very humbling for a lot of people. And I think that's what's missed. I never forget the film session because Chris Dixon can answer this. Chris, how many touchdowns did I catch in that Sioux City game?
3, 4.
4.
You caught 4, yeah.
I caught 4 touchdowns in that game, and I didn't feel very good after that game. And I remember the film session, and I remember, and this is why I love Robert Reed to this day. No matter what, I love him. He goes, well, what would you give yourself a grade in that game? I was like, shit, 6 out of 10. I didn't play very well. And I remember everybody in the room kind of looked up at me. It was like, really? Because everybody knew how many touchdowns I had. Everybody knew that my name was all over the paper that week because, the new guy makes good. I guess that trade worked. But I remember going like, no, I didn't feel very good in that game because I left meat on the bone. I made Chris have to call the same play and make a tougher catch. I think that catch hurt. I remember that catch. The first one was easy. The second one, he was like, well, I'm going to make sure nobody else can catch it but you. So he threw it 2 rows perfectly. I think I ran the same post. And he threw the same ball. He's like, I have to make sure that it's just you. So I'm going to make it harder on you since you want to do the athletic receiver thing. Chris, you know what that is, right? The athletic receiver thing where it's like, well, I gave you the easy one, you want to drop it. Well, now I'm going to go make you look like a superstar since that's what the fuck you want. Mm-hmm. That's what a quarterback does to you when you fucking make him have to do the same shit over. So that's a lesson to any young, aspiring, wannabe number 1 wide receiver. If a quarterback makes it easy for you the first time, just look the ball in. Secure your 2 feet. In high school, put 1 down and just catch it and secure it. Don't worry about anything else. Catch the ball first. That's the best advice I could ever give anybody who wants to be a star receiver because he will go to you if he's the right quarterback. He'll go, we're gonna run the same shit. And you will be open because this team's dumb enough to play the same coverage. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to punish you. And that was him punishing me. And I remember, I don't even think I touchdown danced on that one. I was like, ooh, I had to go up in stands. They took the ball from me. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to keep that.
Let me interrupt real quick because
you interrupted me because I was still 2 minutes into my point. I had another 2 minutes to go. Go ahead, CT. This is your show.
This one is going to run long. We're gonna have to come back for another because we probably had already an hour and some change.
You right.
So
you right.
If it's okay with the MVP himself, we're gonna have him back on so we can have more of this conversation. Because I know all of us got families and wives, and some of us got newborns and everything else. Mm-hmm. He probably ain't gonna, Dixon ain't gonna sleep no way because he got a super newborn. But I gotta take my ass to sleep. So with all that being said,
hey, can I just say this real quick? Hey, before you do this is not even a give me a minute before you do our outro. First of all, CD5, thank you. Can't wait to. We have on different shirts and whatever it may be the next time we finish this, we'll have this all complete. This could be like a 16-part miniseries. This shit is like the IFL roots in this motherfucker, right? But I just want to let y'all know there's nothing better than watching your wife dance to the new Kanye West album the whole time in her iPod and her AirPods. That shit is hysterical. Like she is having a ball. She's like, I can't get over this Donda. I've heard her say Jesus 15 times a day. So I just wanted to put that energy in the air. Love you some Jesus, America. And now she's eating potato chips. So there's no telling what she's been doing since I haven't been looking. Yes, I'm talking about you dancing to Donda and eating potato chips.
Oh, nonstop.
Nonstop, she says. Go ahead, Chris. Get the outro so we can all go to bed.
So with all that being said, we'll get to give you a minute another time. I appreciate the MVP coming and talking to us. We're going to have him back again. Like I said, we got more than enough content just with him alone is 16, 17 shows. So, CD, we appreciate you. We love you. But the same question we ask every night, Walt, I'm going to ask you again one more time. And that question is what, Walt?
What's good, America?
What's good, America?